Hello and welcome to Reporters, France 24's very own showcase of the best work of our own correspondents across the world. Today, how a conflict zone is literally a gold mine to one French company. Sudan is possibly best known across the world as the stage of the conflict in Darfur, where over 200,000 people have been killed in an internal dispute called a genocide by the United Nations. But in another part of Sudan, a French company is cashing in. How does a company based in a nation like France, a nation which prides itself on being a defender of freedom throughout the world, end up doing business in an African state whose leader is the subject of an international arrest warrant? In fact, the golden deal with Sudan dates back to the early 1990s, when Sudan was already leaning towards Islamism and Omar al-Bashir was established as leader. The Darfur crisis had yet to make the headlines, but events as they've unfolded since raise many questions about the morals of how business is done in countries where the rules of life are very different. Here's our special report from our correspondent Stéphane Aubois.
Here is the region of Ariab, located in the Nubian desert, between the Nile and the Red Sea, a dry land yet filled with gold, inhabited by the Bija, a tribe from eastern Sudan. We are on the outskirts of the only industrial gold mine in the country, a gold mine exploited by an often criticized Sudanese government and the French giant Areva. Head miner Jean-Pierre is one of the last pioneers of this adventure, which started in the early 90s. He is taking us to the place where it all began.
How many tons were extracted from this site?
On this site, 12 tons, and that was over 6 or 7 years, around about.
Actually, it's quite beautiful.
Oh, yes, yes. It's become a bit like back home for me. I'm from the Alps. I love the mountains, but I don't see them anymore. It becomes a routine after a while. The first pit was Adelawatib West, which we started here. And the second was Adelawatib East, A and B, over there in the middle.
In 17 years, over 20 open pits were dug and exploited. Some reach over 3 kilometers in circumference. Till this day, around 50 tons of gold have been extracted from these rocks. Jean-Pierre is taking us back to the workers' camp.
It takes about 20 minutes on a track like this. We count in time here, not distance.
We arrive at the entrance to the mine. The Ariab Empire opens us the doors to its secret universe. It is the first time that a camera enters these premises. 700 men, of which 20 experienced expatriates, mostly in their 50s, work in this exclusively male world. The numbers make the head spin. 30,000 horsepower for 73 machines, of which 23 are dumpers, giant trucks capable of carrying up to 100 tons of rocks, a huge exertion of energy for both men and machines. It's 11 o'clock, time for Futur, the second of 4 meals in the day.
But there are some meals you should avoid.
Yeah, there are some meals better off avoiding, like the soup sometimes, the fish, better to avoid them.
The French on one side, the Sudanese on the other.
It's their decision. The French have their camp over there. We, the engineers, are here, and the workers are on the other side. The camp is divided into 3.
The majority of the workers are Bija, nomads who over time have settled down with the arrival of the mine.
Our ancestors are from this land. All our ancestors died on it, and when we die, our children will hold on to it. We will never let it go. Never.
The gold is in the mountains, and they are working there, but we never see it with our own eyes.
We don't see it. We don't know what happens to it. It goes to France. The government takes it, but we benefit from it. The gold feeds us. They take the gold and we get services in return. We have no problem. The gold feeds us, allows us to drink. We have no problem.
After a half-hour's rest, the mine goes back to work in one synchronized motion. The gold cannot wait. If the yellow metal is invisible to most of the workers, others approach it, like Abu, a Bija geologist born only a few kilometers from the mine. Abu promised us the gold is at the end of this rough track, just over the hill. On site, different continents rub shoulders. Sudanese, French of course, but Australians also work on this land. Here they are trying to find out if the gold in the rocks is economically exploitable. It has to be profitable. Last year, Sudan and Areva's turnover was 65 million euros.
You can see this one here is a good carat. There's gold in it, and copper, silver and zinc. We can tell by looking at it, from the marks and lines on them. Each carat is different.
On the road to another part of the mine, Abu cannot stop speaking about the region and the precious metal it holds.
Everybody asks us all the time, you found gold, you found gold? Every day they ask us, because the gold is connected to their lives. If there is no gold, there is no life in this region. It has always been this way, dating back to the pharaohs, the Romans, then the Arabs, and after that the Egyptians.
We arrive. Jean-Pierre meets us as night falls.
What is the quality of the gold? Medium, good, average?
Well, above all, it's micrometric. Nobody sees it, which allows us a certain level of security. It has to go through a chemical process before appearing.
This invisible gold demands a ferocious amount of energy. After the carat process, the minerals need to be extracted. Jean-Pierre prepares the dynamite for the next day. 24 hours a day the rocks are crushed. The days are long and the work arduous, but the men are well paid, 2 to 3 times more than the average in Sudan. The day is over for Jean-Pierre, but before returning to camp, usual stopover at the site cabin for a cup of tea.
It's a gold mine. Is that important for you?
For visitors, that's what makes it so magical.
But for the workers?
For the workers, a stone is a stone. It comes out as a stone.
So what makes you stay here for so long?
In the beginning, we came for the work and the money. That's for sure. The work and the money. Now, the hardest part is probably being able to withstand the loneliness at night. Because during the day, we're all together. We talk about work, we have something in common. But since we all come from different backgrounds, outside of work, it's harder to find affinities. So you can easily find yourself alone. And it's this solitude that lasts until the next morning that's the hardest thing.
The ghost of loneliness appears each night in the camps of the French and Sudanese engineers. The silence of the desert is broken by a faint music in the far-off distance. We approach the camp of the Bija workers. They are celebrating the wedding of a tribal leader.
It's my second marriage, and I already have children from my first wife, thanks be to God.
The Umda, as he is called here, is well respected not only by the workers, but by the mine's management as well. This land is his. He does not work in the mine, but chooses instead to remain a nomad, and lets us know it.
Honestly, for me it was better before. Our elders, our grandfathers told us how there used to be lots of livestock and harvests, but I think we also have a good future.
"7 a.m. and the first dynamite has gone off.
We're just going to let it settle a bit.
Under Jean-Pierre's supervision, dumpers and trucks remove the broken rocks. Of the millions of tons excavated, only 3% will serve in processing gold. After the explosion come the sparks. Back to the camp. Over time, the mine has become the arbitrator for tribal affairs. Just about every day there are small conflicts to resolve. Dennis the diplomat has to solve a problem concerning water and grazing.
Sheriff. You'll call sheriff, right?
After freeing up, Dennis takes us to visit the crushing and treatment factories. This time it's certain, the gold is at the end of this line.
Here we have Mr. Daniel Le Golf, who is the director of the factory. He is in charge of the first process for the production of gold. His time is very precious, so we say, his time is worth gold. I give you Daniel.
Here we are on the site of Alcazara. It's a simple process. We crush the rocks which come from our different mines. They arrive in blocks at the top of our installation.
A monster installation whose sandy intestines digest tons of rocks every day, reducing them to 8 millimeters.
They are crushed to the size of 0.8, and then we amalgate them with water.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's dangerous.
Dangerous products, right up to the last process in the chain. It's at this stage that the rock undergoes a succession of chemical transformations, electrolysis, fusion, before becoming a bar of gold.
Yes, it is gold, about 15 kilo of doré, containing 55% of gold, and the remaining is silver and some copper.
Here it is, this industrial gold. A strange alloy, a bit like the relationships in the camp. Soon enough, the bars of gold will be sent to Western countries to be refined and separated. The gold on one side, the silver and copper to another. Jean-Pierre is about to leave.
The real happiness comes once I've landed in Lyon.
Khartoum first, then Paris. For a month he will see his mountains and Savoie again. Jean-Pierre knows it already. These are his last years of work in Sudan. Soon Ariab's gold will have run out. According to the geologists, the company only has 2 more years to exploit the precious metal in this region.
Well, the man who made that report, Stéphane Aubois, is with us now. Stéphane, thank you for being with us here in the studio. Areva is known for its activities within the nuclear industry and in Africa because it's looking for uranium. What's the interest for Areva to be involved in gold mining?
Actually, this is actually out of sheer coincidence. At the beginning, COGEMA had sent a few engineers. A few engineers had been working with COGEMA and found gold in Sudan, and COGEMA bankrolled and harnessed that gold mine. And in 2001, when Areva bought over COGEMA, Areva also bought a company, a Canadian gold company called La Mancha, which already had gold mines in Australia, the Ivory Coast, and Argentina. And indeed, today, Areva is now trying to fan out, to branch out in the gold business, which is not part of its core business now. And so far as Sudan is concerned, I believe that gold, or Areva's motivation is the fact that Sudan is the greatest country, the biggest country in Africa, and had never been harnessed. It's the only colonized country with the most pristine lands. And indeed, Areva, I believe, has already tapped into those soils, including uranium and other rare metals. They're interested in their own core activities, and gold might somewhat be another way of really tapping into other interests.
But when you think of France and what France stands for on the world stage, it seems kind of strange perhaps to some people watching this programme that a French company is doing business in Sudan. How does that happen?
Well, it happened out of sheer coincidence with those engineers that harnessed this part of the eastern part of Sudan in the early 90s. And at that time, we knew that good relations were being fostered, especially with Hazrat Wahabi, who's a major Islamic leader who doesn't hide his French or his love of French culture. He speaks very good French, so the relations were rather good from that side, and this enabled to open up a few doors here and there. And in 1995, we also knew that Carlos, the terrorist, had been arrested and transferred from Sudan to France through the leader. And this perhaps might be a very short summary, but the relations between Sudan and France had never been that bad, as opposed to the Americans that imposed an embargo, and that for 10 years in Sudan. Now, France is still fostering relations in Sudan, and Areva is not the only company. Total has a very important concession in the southern part of the country. Now, however, it still hasn't harnessed that part of the country, but the contract has been sealed. Alstom is also present in the construction of dam, a big, a colossal dam of the Nile River. Alstom is present, so France is highly present through very small companies in agricultural activities and trade and so on.
Stéphane Aubois, thank you very much for that analysis of France's involvement in Sudan. You've been watching Reporters here on France 24. Stay with us.